We're all starting in this venture together.
And I heard fiberglass tearing to pieces. We're gonna have to abandon ship.
There was nothing to protect us. I knew I was gonna die.
I'm not in a safe environment anymore. I didn't consider animals. I didn't consider reptiles.
He just kept saying, am I going to die?
I'm never going to be able to see my family.
My son was going to lose his life.
And I'm going to die here in the middle of nowhere.
I have never sailed before, and I've been yearning to be on the ocean. All my life, I've gone on adventures to overcome fear. So when this opportunity came, I signed up and I scheduled to go.
It's called the Baja. It's a fun rally from San Diego to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. It's a bunch of people that it's their first real offshore cruising experience. And so they originally started it so that they could get together and just have some support. This was my 5th rally. I am the captain of the ship.
It was fun. It was like a party. It was like we're all doing this. We're all starting in this venture together.
There was 5 people total on the boat. One of them is a co-worker of mine. He was there mostly to learn how to teach offshore cruising.
Eugenie and I both worked for sailing school, and my role with her was really to support her. I was primarily doing this race for fun.
When we first started the trip, it was so gorgeous and sunny, and there's all these fabulous sailboats, and everyone's talking over the radios, and the waves are calm, and the water looks beautiful. The morning of the 2nd day, Eugenie feels that there's some repair work that needs to be done on the boat that can't be done by her.
We had a problem with the alternator, so the batteries weren't charging, so we couldn't use a lot of the equipment. So I decided basically to go into Ensenada and try to have someone fix it. After we left Ensenada, everybody was very happy to go back out to sea. That's what we were doing. We were going to join back the race, and we were going to be right back into it. It was just a weird circumstance that we had to stop in Ensenada, so we distanced ourselves from the fleet. When we were surrounded by other boats, if something goes wrong, then they're right there, and we can get immediate help. And now we were alone. So I was a little worried.
We were 40 miles off the coast of Mexico. It looks like we're in the middle of nowhere. And someone yells, "There's whales." I'm so excited. And I rush over to the side of the boat.
For the students, it's exciting to see whales. So they were all excited, but their movement was just so erratic. There were so many bubbles. They were either bubble feeding or mating. And if they're mating, then I know not to come close.
I looked out of the corner of my eye and saw a whale approaching us, and it was right on a collision course with us. And I took an evasive action.
And so he turned the boat to one side. There was a few moments where we saw nothing and we didn't know where they were and where we were in correlation to the whales.
All of a sudden, I saw the pronounced hump of the humpback whale just about 15 feet from the boat. Oh my God. It was a whale making full impact with the rudder of our boat.
It was so loud, it turned the boat 180 degrees.
And I heard fiberglass just tearing to pieces. That sound was terrifying, and I knew immediately that it was bad. Water just gushing in. 40 miles from the coast, my whole world just came crushing down.
I planned this trip to Guatemala the summer after I graduated from college and the summer before I started medical school. I really wanted to do something that I'll look back on in my life and say, that was awesome.
Alex is a wonderful son. Alex and I are very close. We've always been very close. I'm very much proud of him. I was excited for Alex to go to Guatemala, but I was always just thinking, you know, he was just going to be so far away.
It was an emotional moment, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll be back in a month. It'll be fine. This is no big deal. We hugged, and I looked back and she's crying, but I knew that this was something that I had to do for myself, but more so I really wanted to do for myself. I left Alabama, flew into Cancun, got on a bus, and then on the third day I was in Guatemala. I am a southern boy. It's where I grew up, coming from Alabama. And I was like a little kid, taking pictures, just like watching everything. It was one of the more beautiful sights I've ever seen in my life. The leaf cutter inn. Here's the building that we're working on. Straight ahead is a 30-foot drop. There's like a big pond there. I walked down close to the water, but they said, don't get too close because there's crocodiles. And at that point I realized I'm not necessarily in a safe environment anymore. I'm even more out of my comfort zone because these are things I didn't even consider. I didn't consider animals. I didn't consider reptiles and those kind of dangers. I was worried more about running out of drinking water or not having food, but I didn't even think about this stuff. When I got down to the dig site there, I was really excited just to finally be there. This idea that I had months and months ago has finally come to fruition. I saw Nina, which I had met her previously.
I met Alex for the first time at Vanderbilt, and I wasn't really sure that he was going to come to the jungle. I got back to camp one day, and there he was. So we welcomed him to have this wonderful experience.
Nina was in charge, and she was giving me the rundown. She told me to always wear shoes, particularly because of a snake that's very common to this jungle, and she called it a fer-de-lance, and it's actually down there called Barba amarilla, and it's the yellow beard.
My biggest fear of working in the jungle has always been being bitten by the fer-de-lance. I've always heard about it. This is the thing that everybody's afraid of in this area of Guatemala, so there are a lot of stories. That's definitely the number one thing that everybody's looking out for all the time. The thing that makes the fer-de-lance extremely dangerous is that it's one of the only snakes in the world that will attack totally unprovoked. You get bitten and you fall over. Dead.
I was sleeping on the ground in this tent, and it was hot, sweaty, the darkest dark you've ever seen. In the middle of the night, I woke up. I got my sandals on. At that point, I had to use the bathroom too bad, so I went outside. And I was watching for snakes like I was supposed to. Walking down the path, kind of, going back and forth with my light. And then, all of a sudden, I saw a flash. And something hit my foot. And I just jumped around. It was a scream that I've never screamed before. The snake just bit me. Like, this can't be happening. I hope that's not that snake they've been telling me about. Oh my God.
The rudder had been torn through the boat by the whale and had been also pushed up and through the deck of our boat. The whale went surfing down a wave, thankfully away from us.
Top of the waves are breaking, so the waves are crashing. The rudder shaft was swaying back and forth, and I was just trying to contain it so that it would stop crushing the fiberglass and making the hole bigger. This back and forth swaying, it kept grinding into the fiberglass. I don't know why I thought I could hold it. My hand was in between it and the pipe, and so it just got crushed. Immediately felt the pain, but I couldn't move it. I thought, if it doesn't come out, I'm gonna lose my hand. And then luckily it came off. My whole hand was black and blue on both sides, and I couldn't move the finger, so I thought it was broken. As much as I was in pain, I knew that I had so much to do. I need to make sure that I save the other people. I could see just water just gushing in. I'm still hoping that I was going to be able to save the boat and the people on it. I can fix a lot of things with very little. I immediately tried to stuff the hole with some cell covers, and I tossed it there too so we could try to contain the water intake.
I immediately then began pumping our bilge pump, or manual bilge pump, to get as much water out and to stop the flow of water as much as possible.
It was already pretty much at knee level that I realized that I was going to lose the boat. I really am devastated that I can't save my boat. When I came back up and I told everybody, I said, guys, I have some bad news. And everybody kind of turned their heads to me, and I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but we're sinking, and we're probably going to have to abandon ship. And at that same time, the water's just coming in. The water's just not stopping. It's just coming in, coming in. I wanted to save the people. So I decided to make a mayday call because I saw the water was pretty much over the floorboards. Mayday, mayday! We've been hit by a whale. We're taking in water. Nobody answered. Nobody heard me.
I looked down in the cabin, and the water's starting to come up. I couldn't move. I was frozen stiff. I didn't feel brave right then. I felt scared. I felt so scared. We're supposed to be in a group of boats, and not one person answered. Nobody could hear a mayday call. And the water was coming up over the radio. So we were gone. I mean, the boat was gone. It was going down. I was afraid. And I didn't want to die.
All of a sudden, I saw a flash, and something hit my foot. Oh my God, the snake just bit me. It hit my foot, and then it was gone. It was that fast. Part of me wanted to just like lay down and wish it all away and say, this is not happening, this is not happening. Because I had been told, if you get bit by the snake, your chances of making it out of here are not very good at all. You probably are gonna die. I walked back to the place where everybody was, and I saw Nina. And I told him in kind of a weak voice, I was like, I just got bit by a snake.
It was like my heart stopped, you know. It was my worst fear come true. It was an absolute nightmare. I've thought so many millions of times, what exactly would I do if this happened? So I immediately started to enact the plan of what we do to take care of this kid.
I remember vividly, I could see her hair and the light shining through her hair, and couldn't really see her face, and I didn't see her expression, but I could just tell she was just like overwhelmed.
We tried to remove as much of the venom immediately as possible using the extractor. It was a puncture wound, and the material that was coming out of it was pussy, bloody. You could tell that something else had gone into him. That's how I knew that he'd been bitten by a venomous snake. The most important thing was to get him to a hospital.
The pain, it started and it just shot up from my leg all the way up to my head. I felt like I was having trouble breathing, my heart was beating so fast, my vision was kind of blurry, and my head started pounding. It felt like my brain was just going to come out of my skull.
He just kept saying, am I going to die? I couldn't give him the answers that he wanted. I was really scared that he wasn't going to make it.
Things are getting just worse by the second. More water's coming in, the water's just rising at such a rapid rate. It's a sinking feeling, because you know that at one point, obviously, it's just gonna sink.
We've been hit, we're going down. Mayday, mayday, and nobody answers. What am I doing on here? I don't want to die.
I really wanted to make sure that nobody would panic, and so that's why I gave everybody tasks. So immediately I ran down and grabbed the EPIRB, and the EPIRB is an emergency positioning indicating radio beacon that sends your latitude and longitude via satellite to the Coast Guard. And I switched it on, and I gave it to Judy.
And Eugenie comes to me and said, Judy, if you go down, this goes down. This is our lifeline.
I gave Judy the most important job.
Seeing the other crew members working, they were doing stuff. They weren't giving up. So I couldn't give up.
I went down below to gather supplies, basically food and provisions and water and a handheld radio, knowing that we were probably going to abandon to the life raft. There's a sort of an old saying that you always step up into the life raft. The sailboat is the safest vehicle. The sailboat is the safest vessel. People have abandoned boats in order to get into life rafts. The people in the life rafts are never found. The boats are found perfectly fine. The biggest concern would be that you deploy the life raft too soon, or you get into it too soon. So we waited until the last possible moment when it was clear to us the sailboat was sinking. Eugenie and Ray began to deploy the life raft outside of the boat, but now I'm concerned. The life raft might get caught on something and be pulled down with the boat.
They told me to just jump in the water. I did not want to jump in the water. I didn't think we could survive. It doesn't make any sense. It was just terrifying.
Found myself swimming.
It was cold and it was shocking. I could feel the water under me, and I just wondered what could happen. There was nothing between us and whatever would, if a shark or anything came, there was nothing to protect us.
And I see the top of the mast go by me. Looked down, and I saw it in the blue depth, and then I saw nothing. The boat was completely gone.
And all of a sudden there was like this yank on the lifeboat. It got caught on the side of the boat. Oh my God, now we don't have a life raft.
And I thought, oh no. The life raft was gone, and we were swimming, no life raft and no boat. I really saw the end.
Time is really the most important factor. The hospital is in the town, and it usually, on a good day, takes us about 4 hours. And I knew that we had to get there a lot faster than that.
I wasn't unconscious, but it just was like, dazed. I could have sworn as we drove off, I saw the snake crawling back into the jungle, and it could have been just a hallucination, but I saw its head like it was kind of raised up, and it was just kind of like slithering along back into the jungle. I mean, I saw it. I felt inside, I don't know how much longer I can survive.
And I was really focused on talking to Alex. He told me about his family and how much he loved them, and it was really clear that his family must have been so proud of him.
I would never want to hurt my mother. I knew at that point that this was going to hurt her. I thought about my family. I'm never going to be able to see them again. I'm going to die here in the middle of nowhere, Guatemala, in a jungle. I wasn't going to stop fighting, but I mean, when it's out of your control, it's out of your control. I felt like I wasn't going to make it.
We were going faster than I've ever gone on this road. We didn't slow down for anything. We just kept going. We're in a tunnel of trees, with trees and vines coming down over the road and in front of us. A really big tree had fallen down across the road. We couldn't get around, and that was my fear, that something would happen that would cause us to lose time. He was drifting off. He was dying. We have to get through, or you're not going to make it.
The boat took the life raft down. I really thought that we were done for.
I don't even know what to pray for. I'm just saying, dear God, please, dear God. All of a sudden, pop free.
When I saw that life raft come back up, I just regained hope. But all the supplies that we gathered together were washed away. And so I immediately did a 1, 2, 3, 4 head count and life raft. And I said, everybody hold on, don't let go, just hold on. We had no food or water. When I got into the life raft, oh my God, it's full of water.
We gotta get this water out of here. We're sitting in water and we're freezing. And we're just bailing the water and we're so cold, so we're trying to get the water out as fast as we can. And we use our hat, we use shoes, we use anything to get the water out.
We were bailing and Barry and everybody were seasick.
I became very, very seasick, just symptomatically seasick, vomiting outside the door of the life raft. It seemed to be every wave the life raft would come down that I would just continue being sick. And the biggest fear at that point is dehydration.
I was really worried that, especially Ray and Barry that was seasick and dehydrated, that they weren't going to make it. They would be the first ones to die. And I knew that after 24 hours, especially with being wet and being out in the elements, without food and water, there was a possibility that we would all die.
I was holding on to the EPIRB. There had been no response to our Mayday calls. We were this little tiny boat. Those little life rafts don't get seen in the middle of the ocean. I couldn't imagine that we had any chance of making it. It seemed hopeless.
The guys in the back jumped out with their machetes, cutting down the vines and cutting down the street. They knew how important it was that we get this guy to town as fast as possible. We had a chainsaw with us just in case of this, and we cut through this tree and pushed it aside. We were already moving before those guys jumped back in the car. It was just like a machine.
I was fighting for my life. I was fighting to see my family again. Just fighting for all those things that make me happy. All I kind of wanted to do was go home, and it just gave me more of a will to live. You know, hoping he can go faster, and how much faster can he go, because I can only be so strong for so long.
We are really racing. We start to come out of the jungle. Every second that went by that we were moving, we were getting closer to the hospital.
My abdomen was starting to be affected. It felt like something wasn't right. If it's in my mid-abdomen, how much longer until it's in my diaphragm or my lungs? And that worried me.
We rolled into the hospital and everybody's shouting, you know, he's got a snake bite. The toxin of the fer-de-lance makes the blood very thin. And so when they tried to insert the IV, he started bleeding all over the place. And I just thought, can this get any worse?
We couldn't see land from where we were in the life raft. There was no boats, no animals, nothing. The sound of the e-perb every 10 minutes, just a little beep comes on. The Coast Guard gets the beep and gets my latitude and my longitude. They know that it's an emergency, but they didn't know if they were going to find somebody. They were going to find just a floating e-perb or a boat for that matter. We had, you know, the VHF, the radio. There's no boats around to hear us.
We had to pretty much stop the Mayday calls and just once in a while make a Mayday call. We did not want to use the batteries up. Hours and hours and hours. It was us in the water. There was nothing. Nothing. We were out there just like a little pin. We had to resign ourselves to the fact that we probably would not be found. No, I knew I was going to die. I wanted my grandchildren to have a grandparent. I wanted to have that feeling of seeing them in college and seeing them get married. I just wanted the opportunity to be with them.
I hear something. I saw in the distance the U.S. Coast Guard helicopter. And my first thought was like, wow, the U.S. Coast Guard, they're here. It was such an amazing feeling, hope coming back and like light at the end of the tunnel. Or it was amazing. So I took the flare outside and I shot it up. And the helicopter just kept going.
When they initially were trying to insert the IV to give him the antivenom, he was spurting blood and it was going very far. They were able to stop it with pressure and to insert the IV and gave him some antivenom. He started to get worse. He wasn't making sense. The actual wound started to look a lot worse. It was really swollen and kind of purple, and it didn't look good. I knew that I had to call his mom. I knew that I had to tell them what had happened. This was the first time that I had to put it into words that Alex had been bitten by a deadly snake.
When Nina got on the phone with me, I kind of hit a panic button. My first thought was just, how could I get to Guatemala to see Alex? But my first mistake was that I had never had a passport, so I wasn't able to even get to him. It was my child and I couldn't get there. I felt so helpless. So when I got off the phone, I went straight to the computer and looked it up on the internet. There were pictures of victims that had been bitten by the fer-de-lance. It was a horrible sight. My computer is actually set up in Alex's bedroom. All of my surroundings is Alex. Everywhere is Alex. I started to cry hysterically. I thought that my son was going to probably either lose his foot, his leg, or his life.
The next day, Alex started to really come out of it.
I remember waking up and realizing what had happened. I guess I started feeling safe once I had made it through that night. I mean, I started feeling like I'm gonna live.
The next day after it happened, he really started to improve. His foot was definitely discolored and swollen, and there was still a lot going on, but he seemed to be through the worst of it. He didn't need any more antivenom.
My leg at this point is, 2 times the size of my other leg. I can't move it. The redness had ascended to right below my knee. Nina just gave me motivation and energy. And more of a will to live even. Nina was there and she was wonderful, helped me so much. If it wasn't for her, I don't know if I'd have gotten back. All those workmen, they came in and each shook my hand and, in their own way told me that they were glad I was all right. It was like I had my own little family there. Saying goodbye to Nina was really hard. The care that Nina provided during this whole terrible event, it left me completely indebted to her.
I felt so much emotion because I felt like we'd been on this experience that in a way it was an adventure, and part of me felt like I wanted to be there with him till the very last minute, till he was really well and he was really home.
When we got to the hospital in Birmingham, I went over to him and I hugged him and hugged him and kissed him and just hold on to him because I was so glad that he was home. Alex stayed in the hospital in Birmingham for 3 days, and then he was discharged to come home with us. This snake bite, I think it made his determination even stronger to become what his dream was, and that's to be a doctor. I'm very proud of him. I am so proud of him. He just has a really big heart.
I had to be willing to trust in the people around me and be willing to put my care in the hands of others. Nina and so many people showed how much they cared about me, even people I didn't know. I didn't ask for the help, you know. It just, you know, was put on my doorstep in a big red bow. And it's one of the things I won't ever forget, you know.
When I first saw the helicopter fly by and continue, it was just a little glimpse of hope, a little line thrown at you that you can't catch. It was just horrible to see it go by.
We really had no idea what was out there, other than that it was a distress call coming from a 45-foot vessel. We didn't see anything. We continued scanning the area. It's really hard to see things actually when you're up higher and there's lots of waves and sea action. One of us saw a flare that went off, and that was kind of like a bingo. That flare really was key for us to sight them. So I suited up, and sure enough, where we saw the flare, there was a tiny little orange speck, which was the raft.
I immediately grabbed my handheld radio and began transmitting to the helicopter. It responded immediately.
That voice in that radio just lifted my heart. I was just, thank God they hear us. U.S. Coast Guard came back on the radio and said, "Roger, we have a visual, we see you."
I see this swimmer, and he looks like an angel. I can't quit smiling. I had the biggest grin on my face you can imagine. He said, "I will take care of you. You will all get home safely."
I felt just relieved that I was able to save everybody and that I was alive. As a captain, you bring everybody back. If you can't bring the boat, at least you bring the people back. This accident certainly has affected my life. I mean, it's definitely an eye-opener. But I still enjoy teaching offshore sailing, and I hope I still do till I can't anymore. I hope I get to do the Baja again this year. I mean, you have to get back on that horse, right?
I would go sailing with Eugenie again. But I made a promise that I would stay home more and be there for the grandchildren. That was one of my promises. It's now time to share my life and mentor my life with my grandchildren. I don't need to keep on these wild adventures. I had to survive for my grandchildren. I wanted to share my life with them, and I wanted to share their lives and see them grow up. So I had no choice. I had to survive.